What's up, everybody? It's the Tuesday night live cast, which will be your Wednesday morning podcast. Hope everybody's doing great. Bitcoin is up. Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin SV are doing some power fighting, along with a lot of other altcoins that are looking a little bit strong. It's kind of interesting. I'm joined tonight, as usual, with the Jim Scampoli himself. What's going on, Jim? Welcome, everybody.
Hey, what's up, man? Hey, be careful, bro. Stop trying to jinx things. You start bringing up, start talking about the price. Next thing you know, it's going to start dropping. It's going to be your fault.
Jim, you know as well as I do that every time Bitcoin goes up, I'm going to rub it in the bear's face. In fact, tonight's episode is called Where You At, Bears? Where are you at? Obviously, too busy taking your losses.
Dude, you're already tempting fate right now. You know what you're doing, right? You're tempting fate. Because we're now, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we're dropping. 87.50, man, we were at 88.90. Not too long ago.
That's relative to the time period in which you looked. So that was like 30 minutes ago. You can go on somewhere. All right, everybody.
You're challenging the Bears. You got the Bears coming back in. They're going to come back with a vengeance, my dude.
Bring them. I love it when the Bears lose. Nothing is more gratifying. Nothing is more satisfying. And all you Bitcoin haters, guess what? You're going to lose. And you're going to lose a lot. I hope you lose it all to the Bears and only the Bears. I'm not necessarily including all you traders. Don't get your feelings hurt. Anyways, Jim, tell me what's new, man. How you feeling about the market right now, by the way?
I mean, I'm still pretty hands off, my man. Like, I'm very, since I'm still kind of new to the space, and you know, I got excited in the summer and in the fall with all the run ups, but then it's not that it came crashing down. It wasn't like devastating or anything like that, but it just taught me a valuable lesson that I'm not like, I don't know. I'm just kind of like, oh, cool, it's up. You know, I try not to get too excited. I take a little, I take a piece out of your handbook. When things are down, you say, hey, let's just calm down. So I do the same thing when we're up. When we're down, I'm calm. When we're up, I'm calm. That's how I'm keeping it. Baseline, baby.
Well said, man. I mean, I could have written that down and it wouldn't have sounded as good as what you just said. I mean, plain and simple. But all right, welcome everybody to tonight's show. This is, as usual, the Tuesday night live cast. Me and Jim have developed some sort of like the superstar presence in the Bitcoin space on Tuesday nights. You know, I'll sign autographs outside of my door trying to get it to my studio today. I'm like crawling through people, man. It's kind of fun, right? You know, obviously a little bit of a joke there. I'm in Mississippi. I don't have that many fans in the state, fortunately, which I like the privacy anyways. But I will say this though. You know, the Bitcoin North American Bitcoin Conference is happening tomorrow. It starts tomorrow, or the week starts. I guess it's already started technically. So we're getting that Miami North American Bitcoin Conference pump as usual. You know, we had it for Vegas. We had it for Consensus this past year. It seems like every big conference, you know, we've been seeing this pump. Miami missed out on it last year. Let's see if they can make an epic one this month. You know, I would love to see Bitcoin get back up to 10, 12,000 bucks. I mean, all my traders are like, oh man, 8,500, it's going to hit. It's going to drop, Joe. It's going to go down. It's going to go back down. It needs to go back down to, we're going to see 5,800. Oh, okay, cool. And then we're sitting up here at 87, 8,800. We close the day above the candle, which CST time, that's 7 o'clock my time. You know, we end up with a daily close, and we close above, right? And that needed to close around $8,500. It did, and I was glad to see such. But also, Jim, think about this. You know, as this new year starts, as the confidence, as Bitcoin continues to bounce off these levels of support, right? We're going down. Remember, we're 67, 6,800 bucks. And everybody was like, oh, we're going down. Hey, Joe, we're going down. Jim, we're going down. And what had happened? Boom, right back up. Then it trickled back down. Boom, right back up, right? When people know that's the bottom, what do? They start buying. They're like, oh, I'm not missing this one. Right. So you get the traders who start believing, the ones who might short at that moment. Instead, now they're either staying out of it, waiting for a movement, or they're going ahead buying back because they believe that they're in a really strong position. And, you know, it's important that folks that aren't traders do recognize, if you are paying attention to the daily charts. What's up, everybody? What's up, Sean? What's up, Raleigh? Nathan, good to see you, my man. But it's important for those of you who are paying attention to these charts to kind of conceptualize this so that you understand why certain price points are so important to the next step of Bitcoin. If we lose a certain support zone, we're going to have to make that back up at some point, right? It's just one more hill we have to climb. That's why I love seeing the support, and I love making fun of the Bears whenever I can. And there was a lot of Bears, Jim, not too long ago. In fact, there was a lot of Bears yesterday. Oh, we're going down, Joe. I was watching typical Bulls say, "Oh yeah, it's got to go down now." I'm like, who are you? This is why I stay off Twitter. Are you a fan of Twitter, by the way?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know much about crypto Twitter, to be honest with you, but I'm on Twitter for sure. But isn't it like it's just kind of you say it enough, it's going to happen eventually. So if things start going when things start going up, of course you're just going to be like, oh no, it's going down, it's going down. Because even if you're wrong today, it's going to hit some sort of peak, and then you're like, see, yeah, I told you, even though it's a week later, and it just drops back down to where it was or something like that. But yeah, I was going to actually ask you too, because last little pump we had, we were kind of blaming the unrest in the world, and it's not like we're on world peace or anything like that, but things have settled down a little bit as far as everyone yelling about World War III. But I guess there's still some tensions out there. But I mean, so you're putting it more towards just maybe a general new year, new pump, crypto week type deal going on right now.
Yeah, actually, funny story. I won't mention any names, but I got a late night email yesterday asking if I could contribute potentially to a Forbes article that was talking about technical analysis. And I was like, dude, you know better than anybody. I'm not a technical guy. I'm not going to sit here and break open the charts and say this is what's going to happen. What I will say, and I proceeded to write I said, and I apologize in advance, like, hey, look, I know this isn't what you're looking for. Submit it anyways. Clearly, I don't think it got published because I was a little bit bold in my assessments. But I said,
how many drinks did you have before you wrote your?
Well, it was during a football game, right?
Okay. Yeah.
The national championship was last night. So, I mean, I'll just let you use your imagination.
Yeah.
And so clearly my punctuation sometimes sucks anyways. I'm from Mississippi. Cut me some slack.
Hey, that's why they're editors.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, clearly they weren't just if they were going to post it, it would have been like a massive troll on Joe Blackburn. And I'm not that important where they have to troll me yet, So that would have been hilarious. And I would have given them major props and acknowledged that awesome troll. But I did go into detail about, sentiment is different right now. Sentiment is of the at least in my opinion, of the very bullish and positive long term, meaning this year assessment. I mean, everybody I talk to with money is like, it's about to go, and I'm really fortunate, Jim. I'm in a lot of different small chats. I mean, I like to really stay really quiet in a lot of them. I really don't like to participate in them in the way, so I don't really have time. But when you watch people who are trading literally $1 million, casually trading, going long, and I mean, we're not talking about on leverage, folks. These people don't have to go on leverage to make money, and although maybe occasionally they do, they're not going to take $1 million and leverage it. Why would they do that? It's stupid. These people are smart and they have money and they've kept it for a reason. And so the people I know with money who've got real money, they don't go to BitMEX with 3 Bitcoin or with 300 Bitcoin. They go to BitMEX with 3 Bitcoin. Just to have fun and play with it. But to get back on point, the people who have the money that I know, who have stacks and stacks of sats, they sit there and they tell me that, they're not making any moves. They're just going to hold the Bitcoin right now. They're not going into Tether. They're not going into any other coin. They're going to hold Bitcoin because it's so likely to go up. So likely to go up. Joe Colasari says 120 days till the halving, and I believe him. It's going to be great. Anyways, Jim, so your perspective on this, does it feel like people think it's going to go up, or do you feel like people think it's going to go down? I mean, you get a lot of insight from me, so unfortunately, you're probably always thinking it's going to go up. But I mean, what's your overview?
Well, I mean, again, based on my limited experience, like I said, I'm keeping things baseline. I'm just staying realistic. I see a lot of little in my short amount of time, I've seen a lot of little pumps like this. So, if we start seeing high 9s, 10s again, maybe then I'll start yelling, show me the money or something. But right now I'm like, it's putting a smile on my face. Don't get me wrong. I'm like, oh, this is cool. This is great. Love to see it. But yeah, I'm not like either way. I'm not yelling like, it's going to drop or hey, we won, game over either,
I don't really know what Darwin's trying to say here. I guess he's saying that there is no bottom, that it's just going to keep going down. I mean, every time they turn on the FOMO, it's so bullish. Great trading, no Bitcoin bottom. I'm assuming that's what he means. I disagree with you completely. What's up, Ash? No, I have not seen it yet, but I can't wait to read it. When did you post it? You have to send it. Put it in the comments so other people can see it too. But I agree with you, Jim. I mean, it's like put up or shut up. You kind of, as a holder. I mean, you're a holder. You fall into that category. As a holder, you're okay with it not being up all the way right now. You're not expecting to get rich tomorrow. You're realistic about these endeavors, but you're also, you're optimistic. I think just in nature that I think that you believe in it at this point. But you're okay with it taking 2 or 3 years. Like if it does, good, great, no big deal. I mean, what other investment can you make that can make you 100% like real money, not like some snake oil, but like real money that you can cash out 100% profit in months, if not a week, if you catch it at the right time. So anyways, overall, I do want to talk a little bit too about, Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Cash SV. And as we were talking briefly prior to the show, got started, I mean, it's been kind of a whirlwind for the two of them.
Well, that's what, you were telling me a little bit about this before we turned on the stream. And, I forgive my ignorance, but I don't know anything about this. I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, I've heard of Bitcoin Cash, but as me representing like just the average Joe, if you will, we most of the time we're like, oh, so that's like a thing that's not Bitcoin, but it has the name Bitcoin in it. So what's going on? Tell me.
Yeah, I mean, and for those of you who might be listening who aren't familiar with the Bitcoin Cash the Bitcoin Cash fork that happened in 2017, Roger Ver, who's been a long-term, really proponent and really hero of the blockchain space, in 2017 made himself essentially public enemy number one, right? And when he forked off of Bitcoin to create Bitcoin Cash, he did it in like the name of Satoshi. He like did it in the name of, this is what the original intent and the original idea of Bitcoin. Most of the details about that, nobody in their right mind who's a normal person who doesn't have any technical background would ever even care. But in Bitcoin, there was a lot of drama. And it was right before, I think this was August 2017 is when it happened. And, it really was like kind of the flagpole. I mean, Bitcoin had already gone up to like, several $1,000s at that point from earlier in the year when it was $700 or $800 in January 2017. And so Bitcoin was already like in a great position, and then it halved. And then there was a lot of like altcoin madness and what we considered a bear market that lasted for about 3 months. And then next thing you know, boom, it went ballistic. Everything went ballistic, including Bitcoin Cash. At one point, Bitcoin Cash was at $9,000, Jim. Think about that. $9,000. Today it's $350.
Oh, geez.
Okay. So yeah, for real, right? Poor guy. Whoever bought it at that price.
Yeah.
I will acknowledge that it was like for 1 minute, but it was definitely trading for $2,000, $2,500 for several weeks, at least in that time slot. There was several instances of it. But Bitcoin Cash became like this, it was like this like back channel of Bitcoin folks who believed in Roger Ver. And keep in mind, Roger Ver made himself an enemy with this. Like people hated him because of what he did. And then all of a sudden, somebody comes and completely redeems Roger Ver, in the words of Dumb and Dumber. And that was fake Toshi himself, Craig Wright. Craig Wright is an Australian.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about Craig Wright because I'm reading a little bit about him. He's like kind of an attention whore guy. Is that what I'm gathering? Again, like I don't know a lot about
nailed
him.
it. Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry.
So no, don't be. Please interject with those types of comments at any point. Okay. So Craig Wright, and let's be clear here. Craig Wright was there at the time. Okay. Whether he was had a hand in like the actual development in the build, I think that's pretty clear that he was there, right? I don't want to speak too much. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from his contributions to what Bitcoin is. However, he is not Satoshi. This son of a bitch is not Satoshi. And it's crazy to think that somebody can walk around knowing that he knows who Satoshi is. Okay. I mean, there are probably 15 to 20 people who physically know Satoshi and know that it's him. And when I think back to and kind of process the sequence of events, there's no doubt in my mind that Craig Wright had a firsthand account of how Bitcoin was created, but I do not believe that he is actually Satoshi. But Bitcoin Cash was forked last year into BSV, Bitcoin Cash Satoshi's Vision, okay, or Bitcoin Satoshi's Vision, BSV, and Craig Wright kind of agreed with Roger Ver, but was like, this is still wrong, right? Block sizes and all sorts of technical aspects that most people don't care about. But they all made a difference to all the techies out there. And so Craig Wright is out there saying, I was the creator of Bitcoin. It's no longer what it's supposed to be. And I'm going to show everybody that I am Satoshi. So he forks. And he made everybody love Ripple compared to Bitcoin Cash SV. All right. Bitcoin SV, whatever you want to call it. And now we're in a position, and I'm trying to be very generic here because I don't speak the technical language that a lot of people like Ash or or several other people that fall in this category do. But BSV is pumping today, and it has overtaken Bitcoin Cash, which is not surprising just because there's a lot of drama behind BSV, and it's in the news today. Supposedly, Mr. Craig Wright has acquired the keys to a trust that it proves in circumstance, that he was Satoshi. And there's been no proof of this. He has not done anything with the million Bitcoin, and be trash and be trash light, as Ash says. And essentially that's the reason why Bitcoin SV is up and makes Roger Ver look like an angel in all of this and not even that bad of a guy, which he isn't, by the way. I mean, I have a lot of respect for Roger Ver, regardless of why he did it, his intentions. Roger Ver is one of the very few people that there are maybe 5 folks that have done what Roger Ver has done for the crypto space. I mean, maybe not including Satoshi or the team. So anyways, that's just my little rant or overview.
What about in the off chance? What if Craig Wright is who he says he is, and it's like people denying the Messiah? He's coming back trying to say who he is, and he's got his disciples that know the truth, but then you got someone like Joe Blackburn out there saying like, no, this is nonsense. You never know, dude. There's always that chance. There's always that chance he is Satoshi, right?
Are you comparing me to Pontius Pilate? I mean,
could be. Yeah.
No, clearly that's a great analogy, by the way. I think it's really interesting the way you said that. Is there a chance? There's always a chance of everything. All right. Nothing's impossible. But you could not convince me, and I would bet against him. The only thing he could do to convince otherwise, and even if he moved even one of the Bitcoin from the original Satoshi wallet, I wouldn't be convinced that he didn't steal it. Like Satoshi was silent for a decade, Jim. Didn't say a word, was not seeking attention, wasn't looking to create another side chain. He didn't do anything. He or she or it or they just faded into oblivion and sat on 1 million Bitcoin as Bitcoin went to $20,000, Jim. Do 1 million times 20,000.
Yeah.
That's 20,000 million or 2 billion, right? That's a lot of Bitcoin. Okay. And you're telling me now all of a sudden that the original vision of crypto wasn't met with Bitcoin, and now it's subjected to all this other crap and it's not right. Well, that's relative to an individual's thoughts and ideas. And I agree that, that the Satoshi probably had a certain plan for it. I don't speak for Satoshi. But I will say you don't stay silent for a decade and then show up. Now, Peter Kleiman, among other people, there are numerous people that are probably Satoshi or that group of people. We don't know who Satoshi is, but I do know this. It's not Craig Wright.
Well, but if what he says is true now, because he's saying that he has received the keys to 1.1 million. If this ends up being verified, do you start singing a different tune? Do you have a new respect for this gentleman, or does it just break the crypto community in half? What happens?
No, let me tell you. You know what happens? Roger Ver becomes the most incredibly smart and influential man to exist in the cryptocurrency space, and nobody will touch him. He will be the godsend rather than the enemy. Roger Ver, I will be a Bitcoin Cash fan for life. If that was the case, now this is not the case, just so you know. So, sorry, Roger Ver. Until then, you are relegated to Satoshi being Craig Wright to ever be a hero on a high level that way. So, and Ash interjects. And by the way, Ash knows a lot about this. This is really like her. She can't. You don't mess with Ash when it comes to this conversation. And she goes, in my opinion, Satoshi probably left his coins locked because of the early adopters' arguably unfair advantage. Well said, Ash. And does that sound like Craig Wright? No, it does not. And what she's saying there, Jim, I mean, I'm sure I'm not trying to act like you're stupid, but what she's saying is that early adopters who were able to get in very quickly, they clearly had that advantage to where they got really rich, and so
they could mine obviously a lot easier than later, or people jumping on later on.
Sure. And although that's true, that's not necessarily who she's speaking about addressing here. Yeah. It's the people who probably created. And let's be real, Satoshi is not, in my opinion, one person. There's probably a leader inside that group. But if you do your research, you can, and look, I don't think Craig Wright wasn't not part of that. I mean, I think Craig Wright was in that inner circle at one point, but I think he's just a scammer. And I think Craig Wright clearly needs his ass whipped. I don't think he's ever got beat up before. And I think he's just had enough money or enough influence in one way or the next where he's convinced people not to beat him up for a long time, or he got beat up a lot as a kid, which is probably even more likely.
Well, I mean, this is for all the stuff you've mentioned about the upsides of, Satoshi being unknown. This is some of the downsides, because someone with kind of a shaky enough case, but a connection, can come through and be like, oh, no, that was me, actually. Prove me wrong. I'll say that it was me, and I'll have X and Y to say that it was me. And then now we're just stuck arguing about it. Or I guess most people don't care, or they just kind of care about it as the goof. This is the replacement for McAfee's going to eat his own dick, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, this is where it kind of gets a little bit tricky for me just internally. It's like, if Bitcoin were to be discovered, if the person who is Satoshi, let's just say it was one person, okay? Let's just say Ash Rolston was Satoshi. And Satoshi actually became a real person to everybody who has been, involved in Bitcoin. One of the ways Bitcoin's really sustained a lot of its relevance, I think, in the darkest of times, is that it exists with really sincere intentions, right? It exists because nobody is really benefiting at a centralized source, as in it's not a company. There's no CEO, there's no employees. Nobody's sitting here profiting off the individuals who are using it. And the value humans put on it, you could never have imagined what Bitcoin is today. I mean, go tell people who are buying and selling Bitcoin at a penny, or 10 cents, that Bitcoin was going to be, $20,000 at one point, or that it was going to be $8,000 consistently. There's no way anybody would have believed you back then, dude. People wouldn't have believed it when it was $700, at least at this time frame. They might have thought 100 years from now. Yeah, of course. But no way they would have thought that. Now, knowing that, and really, in my opinion, I appreciate Satoshi's, innocence and really significant sacrifice of not being world famous or taking the million Bitcoin that are sitting in an account that could be cashed out and they could live forever off that. I mean, they're generational type of money, right? Multi-generational rich money. So clearly either Satoshi's, Bill Gates, who doesn't care about money, or Satoshi actually was like a really cool person, and really did it right. I mean, look, Jim, if me and you created Bitcoin and there was 1 million Bitcoin, we're just like, you know what? Maybe it's time, dude. Let's just do our thing, bro. I mean, I wouldn't blame you for mentioning it.
Yeah. Well, Ash in the chat, you can't prove a negative. You can only prove a positive. Saying prove me wrong is a logical fallacy. Yeah, I mean, I'm not even talking. That's like all semantics. We talk a lot about how sometimes perception can become reality, though. So,
yep, very true.
You can just. I'm not saying that this person's doing that, but I'm just saying it opens the door at least. And I think the most important thing, the most important reason why this person would not come forward is because if they're not Japanese, it's clearly a cultural appropriation, and it's way more important than any money or any type of number you can put on a business. When it comes down to cultural appropriation, we don't mess around with that. End of story.
Absolutely. I mean, I can buy that, right? That's
if it's a white person
clever,
calling themselves Satoshi, you can
look,
Satoshi's non-binary all you want, but when it comes down to it, if your hero is actually hiding behind someone else's culture and wearing it as a costume, maybe you want to think twice about your progressive values, okay?
Especially if they're living in America, right?
I'm putting it out there. I'm just saying what we're all thinking, and we're too afraid to talk about the cultural.
Satoshi, you better be Japanese.
Yeah, exactly. And when it comes down to it, you should have just called yourself Captain Bitcoin. It was right there on the table. And we could be talking about Captain Bitcoin right now, but we're talking about Satoshi Nakamoto. Cultural appropriation.
Can I call you Captain Bitcoin? Can I call you that? Because that's a pretty cool name.
Yeah, I think it would have been great.
Bitcoin. All right, Captain. All right, you bring up a good point, though. Why is Satoshi called Satoshi? Now, Jim, and as you're relatively newer to the crypto and Bitcoin world, there's a lot of theories, and some people have put together that, there's, 4 or 5, Asian companies that if you put the names together, you can create Satoshi. It's like Datsun and Nissan, and you get, among others, you get a lot of, of the Japanese names, you get, Satoshi out of that, right? If you just take little blocks of each of these names. And then there's other people who say that, that Peter Kleiman was Satoshi. You have, Nick Spanos, you have a ton of people who have credible reasons to could potentially be, Ash, I would love to know who you actually think Satoshi is. I would just love for you to actually put it out there and say who it is. I do think that you probably have thought this through enough to say that that's more than likely that the end result is what you say. But Baz, you made a comment a second ago. Either BSV crashes or price discovery coming up. I do not see any case in which Bitcoin SV can sustain this at this point. This was the cap. This was the cap, in my opinion. Like, we're there, and it might go up a little bit more, but these people that are buying BSV right now, they're buying it literally because they know that they can write it up and they're going to sell it. They're not buying it. They're not holding BSV because it's going to go up. Now, on the other hand, look, if you had Bitcoin Cash, you got free BSV. And so because you got free BSV, like, just hold it. Maybe it does. I doubt it, that it's going to do anything more. I'll take Bitcoin Cash before I'll take Bitcoin SV, Bitcoin Cash SV. But I don't know. I'm just making my assessment, and I'm listening to the people who I believe know a lot of great things about this market today. I know that Bitcoin is not going to lose to either one of those, at least anytime soon. And I would be heartbroken to lose out on significant profit by not being the most highly invested into the one Bitcoin. And Jim, on that point, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, so with Bitcoin going on a little run, although it's been going on, steady runs the past few weeks, like we mentioned, kind of up and down. Is this affected more because of what's happening with like Bitcoin Cash and BSV, or is it the other way around? Or is it just in general, like, things are happening, so people start buying because they're like, all right, well, I'm going to get a little of this. I'm going to get a little of this. Of course, I'm going to get Bitcoin, and I don't want to miss the boat type deal. Or is it just coincidence?
I mean, if you really ask me, like, Captain Bitcoin, if you said to me, Joe Blackburn, you said, hey, I'm Captain Bitcoin, I want to know, what do you think Bitcoin's price should be today? Like, what is, if you put all the factors together, what is Bitcoin's actual value in your opinion? Like, what should it be trading at? What's the realistic number? I would tell you $25,000. There is no way in my mind I can be convinced that today we are not undervalued, because I believe Bitcoin should be $25,000 right now. And I can tell you that for a few different reasons, but I'll stay with this. the potential that Bitcoin is not only necessary in the future, but will be highly integrated into every major line to line, country to country transaction where it doesn't make sense, in other ways for people to transact. Government is only getting bigger, stronger, and more involved in your privacy. And the more, I'm not saying Bitcoin's private, but I'm saying you can transact without the permission of a third party. You don't need the government's permission to transact. You might be not anonymous on Bitcoin, but the person receiving it might be. Could they be in the United States? Yep. Pay your taxes. Guess what? They don't know who that person is. Get a brand new Bitcoin wallet. And although you're accountable for your transaction, if you're a U.S. citizen, who is on the other line? Maybe it's you. Who knows? None of your business, Mr. Government. And for that reason alone, Bitcoin is one of the very few options you got left that a lot of people are using. Yeah, there's a lot of great privacy coins out there. I don't use them. I'm not saying I don't love them. I'm just saying I don't really need to use them. I'm going to pay my taxes. I don't mind paying taxes. I think it's a civil duty in a lot of ways. I don't want to pay 40% or 50% taxes.
You wouldn't think taxation is theft? Because I've been told taxation is theft.
Okay, so let's just all take an ideology check real quick. If me and you and a few other people were just like living in the woods together, how would we survive? Would we survive by not ever helping each other?
We'd forage. We'd forage the forest, and
we'd forage. We'd share. Yeah, we would.
Would we share though? There'd be a lot of people that wouldn't share.
Well, we'd just kick those people out.
All right, fair
I'm
enough.
Just joking. Obviously not. No, I appreciate. I mean, if you want to go by yourself and not be part of a look, the beautiful thing about a family, right? You got. I mean, I'm going to use a traditional family here. I mean, obviously, there's many different types of families in this world, and I don't want to pretend like that's the only way. But in my family, I husband, wife, kids, etc. Husband, wife go off to work. The kids, they just chill. They get their dinner given to them. That's pretty communist, right? They don't have to do nothing except just listen to the government.
Yeah,
and I mean, the concept of government is not negative. Government gets a bad rap because government can be bad sometimes. But the government is just the name that we give a controlling entity that gives us guidance and set standards and laws. And I'm okay with that, right? I'm okay with certain types of governance. I don't want intrusive or really overbearing, hold me down type of government. I love Bitcoin because it gives me the opportunity to control my own future with money. I don't believe that the US dollar is the safest investment you can make as far as how I transact. I use it to spend money, but I don't want to invest in the US dollar. You know why? Because they keep printing more. The less rare something becomes, the less expensive it is.
Right? I always do my part with that, though. I always burn as much money as I can to help the inflation.
When you say burn, do you mean spend or do you mean actually set on fire?
No, I'm sorry. I'm in a silly mood. I'm just
no. Look, here's the cool thing. I once had this idea that if we all, which this is actually against the law, so I decided not to tell everybody to do this, but if we all had like burn $1 day, like, and we just burned $1 a year, like every year we just burned $1, like literally set it on fire and destroyed it. I mean, that's 360 million per. I mean, if everybody, and we're including kids and senior citizens and whatnot, that probably aren't burning any dollars, but I mean, if you burn $200 million a year every year, eventually you'd make a pretty big dent. Not $20 trillion worth of debt dent, but I mean, we'd be doing something, I mean, we should have a burn $1 a month day.
Yeah, yeah. Let's
just $1.
Hell yeah.
Hey, dude, I actually heard a stat that people contribute almost $1 million a year in wishing wells as a whole. That's the whole world, though.
Oh yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, because never mind, like sometimes it's not even like it's just like a mall fountain, and people just throwing fucking quarters in there. It's just like, hey, there's water, throw it in there. Someone goes to the beach, toss a quarter in, make a wish.
I mean, look. First off, someone's going to collect that dollar or that 25 cents. So it's not like it's contributed to, burning the, the fiat, but I just thought that was an interesting conversation, piece to add in and interject. But and Joe Carlisari, and he says we print 1 billion a month at the Fed. I mean, this is not a problem, folks. You can't keep interjecting money, cash money, into an economy. Yeah, I mean, when it's good, it's great. But at some point, 2008 will happen again. I mean, I have my own opinions on that. I don't think it's tomorrow. I think, as long as Trump's president, I don't think that the investor confidence is going down anytime soon. It's a wonderful time to be investing into the stock market, folks. I mean, it has been, at least. Are we due for a recession even on a minor one? Yeah, we're due, but I don't think we're there yet. I think the stock market will continue to go up. Overinflated stock market out of expectations that it's going to keep going up. We're at if you put it in perspective of the last Bitcoin run before it dropped, we're at $14,000. We're not quite there yet, but we're almost to that 20K mark. And I think there's some serious movement left. I mean, 20, 30, 40%, it could still do over the next, 2 to 5 years. But then it's going to come back down. It's going to come back down. It's just my opinion.
And who's going to foot that bill?
Well, I know, but not unless the little guy is buying Bitcoin, because what's Bitcoin going to do when we come back down? This is your chance, little guy or girl or it. It's your chance. Do you think Bitcoin would be a good way to store wealth, Jim? Like, if you were a doomsday prepper, would you be okay with buying Bitcoin knowing that doomsday preppers are preparing for EMPs and all that kind of stuff?
I was going to say, yeah, maybe not a doomsday prepper. Like, to a doomsday prepper, they think that, like, water is the next currency. You know what I mean? And maybe they're correct.
Ammo.
Yeah, ammo. Well, yeah, I guess because you use that ammo to take someone else's water, right? Talking about going in the woods, Jaron,
or protecting your own water,
Oh, for sure.
You have a lot of it.
Because
Bitcoin compared to water, which one would you invest in right now?
Oh, right now I'm invested in Bitcoin. But I mean, do you watch the Big Short, that movie?
Yes, it's been a minute, but yes, of course, it's a classic.
The main dude there that predicted like the housing crisis, his whole thing, at least with the movie. I mean, I learned things from movies and TV. At least with the movie,
you're a pop culture icon.
Yes, at least what the movie told me is that guy's like, yeah, water, that's our crisis. Get ready, people.
If you're in California, it is. And a big shout out to our Australian friends who've been dealing with the fire. I'm not going to make a joke about that, but Australia also probably would appreciate a bunch of water right now too.
Yeah, that's insane. That's scary. It looks like it's like speaking of movies, it does look like it's like a disaster movie with like the red tint and people like hanging out on a beach because the fires are getting too close.
So, when the world burns, Bitcoin survives. And, whether it's fires, whether it is nuclear war, the internet will always be the goal. People will always need to be connected. And so you'll always be able to get back to your Bitcoin. But, let me ask you, and I'm not really the person who can have an answer to this question, but we live in one internet, right? Like, we say the internet and everybody's accessing the internet, but the internet, is that just like a universe or a galaxy, inside a bigger picture that we haven't broken into yet, Jim? Like, if you really think about it, why can't I create my own internet? I mean, if nobody shows up, I guess it's useless, but you can create your own internet and nobody else has really tried to do that. I guess that's kind of an intranet. I guess you would consider it intranet at that point, but doesn't the internet become an intranet if there's several of them? I mean, I don't know.
Huh. Well, yeah, because what? Like, you're talking kind of trying to get your own, like maybe your own server, your own little piece, your own little corner.
Well, how about this? Like, is there a bigger universe of internet out there that we just haven't? Are we just in the internet universe right now, and eventually at some point there's going to be a bunch of little smaller internets, or what?
Like the next thing that we're going to tap into that's going to like link everything and make everything smaller. Everything's just making everything smaller in a lot of ways.
Yeah, exactly right. That's a good way to put it. Everything's getting smaller. Yeah, and Parker says every company has those, right? Yeah, like if you have to have permission from, like, let's just say you're at like a bank, right? You work at a bank, and your banking your server may allow or not allow certain, visits to, you're pretty much getting permission from your server to access. And I'm speaking very generically here. Don't kill me,
Sure.
Ash. But your bank server is going to give you permission on whether or not you can access a certain site, or you can go and do something. So you need permission. So you're living within this like intranet inside a company, or if you're in China, within a country, right? So whether it's a bank or whether it's a country or whether it's whatever, the internet, is that actually what's out there, or is there something past the internet? I mean, we have the dark web, right? You can't just get to the dark web. You have to like bypass the internet to get to the dark web, right?
Well, it comes down to like you can have your own company intranet or network or what have you.
Immersive internet.
There's still, and that the internet is basically just a bunch of networks joined together. But the thing is, you're still at the mercy of that gateway to the main line. You know what I mean? That's what were they talking about? I forget if they're talking about it during Trump or Obama, or they're probably both.
Yeah, both.
Doing a potential kill switch type deal for an emergency. They could like hit a button and try to like shut everyone down or something like that. Because, like you're at the mercy, you've brought up in the past, AT&T. You could have your home computer and all your good stuff, but then once AT&T is like, sorry, we're not going to give you a good connection, you're kind of SOL.
Folks, if your internet went out, how would you function?
Yeah.
I mean, I consider myself a minimalist. Okay. I drive a older truck. I do not spend money on stupid things. I am very, very, very frugal when it comes to what I need in my life to be happy. Okay. I don't need physical things. I find a lot of comfort in being super, just okay with the way that I live my life. Like, I believe material objects are a distraction to long-term success. And when you have to buy something, or you want to feel fulfilled, so you go get a brand new truck, what's the difference? What is the difference between that and an old truck? I mean, I want power windows. That's a need for me, right? I don't want to drive a stick shift again. Although I don't mind driving a stick shift, I'm not trying to drive a fast car. I'm trying to drive a truck. I drive a truck because it's resourceful, right? I use my bed in my truck weekly, if not daily. I like to be very, very, very useful in how I accomplish and do things. I don't like to waste money. All right. That being said, if I lost the internet, holy shit, my life is over, bro. What am I going to do?
You just be fiending, right? It's just fiending. You got to check your Facebook. You got to, see if there's any new clickbait articles that you need to click on and get either annoyed at or excited about.
Or troll somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't got my poor family. They would be trolled nonstop in person. I would get my ass kicked more.
Yeah, you're just doing your internet stuff to your wife.
Or go to the local gas station and just sit there and just talk shit to people pumping gas. Hey, what you doing? Asshole.
Just start going on a big rant about the way the media's portraying certain candidates. And although I guess it'd probably be a stress relief for a lot of people, because obviously we're all addicted in our own ways, whether because you're always on your phone, you're always on your computer, you're always on social media. But I'm not breaking any news here saying that it adds a lot of stress to a lot of people's life, because you see people that get caught up in some of these long arguments on social media, and then that spills over into when they visit their family on Thanksgiving or whatever, to the point where you see people like hyping themselves up on their Facebook about like, oh, when I see my uncle, I'm going to tell him about Yang and how Yang stinks, and or Trump or whatever it is. So, yeah, there's that like side of a lot of people where, well, you're a country boy, Joe, but city folk are like, hey, maybe I'll just go into the countryside, disconnect, turn my phone off, just kind of enjoy the crickets, enjoy the stars and the moon, No,
well said. Okay, so while you're saying that, like people like make fun of like the curbside preachers that just scream at people, and they just
yeah.
And I'm a man of faith. Keep that in mind. So I look at these people like, I mean, this is not how look, you're a Christian. This is not how Jesus would want to interact with humans, right? This is how Jesus would not interact with humans. So just to be clear, if anybody's yelling at you, professing the Christian faith or being Christian, that is not the way that Jesus says to act. That's for sure. I'm not saying that their intentions might not be, wrong. They probably mean well. They're just handling it like an asshole, right? But if you think about, the internet, we're all doing that in a lot of ways. We're the curbside preachers yelling at people on the internet, and some people agree with us. A lot of people, and most people probably don't, or at least won't say that they agree with you. They're just embarrassed. If anything else, there's a bunch of curbside yelling, screaming preachers on the internet talking about Trump or Bernie Sanders or whoever it might be that will never connect with anybody because of their approach. You, my friend or not friend, are the same person that you hate, and that's not cool.
And I can't even be like holier than thou, because it's like I don't get in arguments about candidates or anything like that, just because it's like, not that I don't care, like I care about whatever I care about, but I don't care about getting into arguments about that. But catch me in a Star Wars argument on social media. That's my Trump. I'll be arguing about Star Wars. I'll be arguing about TV shows, whatever it might be. And I mean, I guess in the grand scheme of things, it's a lesser thing to care about, but it also has the same, like, I'm getting the same point across that you are. Like, you're not doing anything more noble because you're arguing about AOC or something on your social media.
AOC? I'll argue about AOC right now.
I didn't mean to set you off. It's your trigger.
No. She's hot. I mean, she's stupid, and I would listen to her talk more because it's entertaining at minimum. Fair enough.
And going back to, you mentioned like material objects. So are you saying that like the life-size ET prop that I got for Christmas doesn't bring me joy? Because it brings me lots of joy.
Oh, I mean, that's all relative to the individual, right? I mean, if you're a billionaire, what's spending $1,000?
No, for sure. I'm not a billionaire though. I don't think it was $1,000 though either.
Yeah, no, of course not. But I guess what I'm saying is, it's all, for me, I don't have to have a lot of money to survive. I just don't. Right. I hunt and I fish and I eat what I harvest, I mean, like, hunt? I'm not a huge fan. I've got a gun, and it's cool. And I respect, I mean, like, I have a lot of people who think pure hunting, and especially sport hunting, and look, if you are a anti-hunting person, go bow hunting and tell me that you're not working your ass off. It's a lot of work to bow hunt. I mean, it's one of the hardest things that you will ever do is go kill a trophy buck, harvest 200 pounds of meat, and at the same time be the proudest dude in your county or girl, by your actions. That takes a lot of work, and you don't just get lucky with that. You've got to be really skilled to bow hunt. Will I bow hunt? Yes. I prefer not to anymore. I'm just so much happier with a gun.
What about like survivalist skills, like, rubbing pieces of wood together and making a fire or something like that?
Well, I was in the Army for 7.5 years, and I grew up in the South, and so I've been very fortunate to be able to be involved in one capacity or the next, and being able to be trained in certain ways, whether it be through the Army or my military background, or just being a Southern boy trying to make it in the woods one day. I mean, I'm a survivor. I can do it.
Not to backtrack, but Ash in the chat, Joy, we didn't need to know that. Jim, we didn't know that. Come on with the dirty minds. That's not where I'm going with this. Come on, Jim. Come on.
It could have been.
It could be.
It could have been.
No judgment if that's who you are. We're accepting of everyone. I would never.
That's true.
I would never.
Hey, Ash, what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
Ash is also accepting of everybody, for the record, too. I just where's she going? Is she Ash? Are you a bigot? Which is not the case, everybody. Just for the record.
Going back to fresh water, and I'm not even sure, like, how versed you are with Akon.
He's just got his new little town.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about. Like,
Akonville.
You spoke to someone. I'm spacing on his name. The guest you had before that had, I guess, kind of a similar idea where it's more like a crypto community Is that kind of what Akon's doing, or is
Oh,
Akon
you
doing?
talk about Blockchain Valley. Yeah.
Yes, that's what it was.
Yeah. I love Blockchain Valley. It's Nico and George. George is the one who came on. They're looking to create a self-sustaining physical Bitcoin community with houses and solar energy, among other things, a complete blockchain centered community. It's a little, hard for people to conceptualize until you understand and see it, and they're not in a hurry they're not trying to convince you. They're going to build it and then it's going to work. And when it works, then people are going to be like, holy shit. Okay, let's incorporate that. Their goal is not to create the brand new, standard of living. No, they want to propel the blockchain forward. I mean, I don't want to speak for them. Keep that in mind. This is a unofficial, comment. I'm not part of that team. I love what they're doing. I've watched, and my perspective is that they're building something that they can show this actually works, folks. And 60 years from now, you're going to wish for your children you would start implementing these ideals into folks, that this can happen. People, if you think the way that you think politically, religiously, and everything else that goes along with those really core concepts and foundations are going to be the same today as they are in 25 years, I want you to ask yourself, what did you think 25 years ago if you were alive, let alone if you have been alive? How much have you changed from being a 10-year-old to being a 25-year-old to being a 50-year-old? You're going to change. You know what's going to change? The world with you. So if you think today is what it's going to be like tomorrow, is going to be like the next decade, you're an idiot. And that's one of my biggest problems with Mississippi. And if you follow me, if you're one of my friends on Facebook, I'm sitting there trying to convince the entire state of Mississippi, you better vote for medical cannabis this election because it's on the ballot. Like, don't be naive. I'm a conservative person. I have conservative values, especially as government and liberty go. I am very, very progressive in social viewpoints. And that pisses a lot of people off. And, you go ask people if I'm a Republican in Mississippi, they'll be like, that liberal Joe. You go ask if I'm a liberal in California, and be like, that redneck Trump-loving piece of redneck trash. Where do I go? I'm a man without a country.
Yeah, and I mean, not to like judge anyone, but yeah, if people are still kind of hanging on to like marijuana and it being like a stickling point, it's just already proven so many times over that it's not going to be much of a detriment. And at the very least, if you're concerned about bringing in tax dollars or whatever, it brings in some money and it's fairly harmless. I mean, obviously, with anything you want to regulate it, and don't want kids running around token up or whatever, but
of course,
you
don't want kids running around getting drunk either, right?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
If you are sitting there drinking a beer or sipping your vodka, yet you oppose marijuana, I cannot have a conversation with you.
Although the interesting with that, like what you're just talking about, I mean, even thinking back 20 years ago, it seemed like such a pipe dream for something like that. Like you always saw the hippies like legalize weed, man. And I mean, I was just like, yeah, whatever.
They're crazy. You're an idiot.
Yeah, we'll see. But
you know, in jail, fool.
As time
arrest this dude.
As times go on, people's minds change a bit. I mean, 20 some odd years ago, if you told someone that Donald Trump was going to be president, what would they have told you? Or even going back to the 50s, like that joke in Back to the Future, when they're like, who's president in 1985? Ronald Reagan, the actor. Things change. People change. You don't know what's going to happen. I mean, Joe in the chat saying in 50 years we'll be on Mars. We'll see. We'll see about that.
I hope it's less than 50 years.
It seems like I've no doubt we'll be on Mars, but 50 years seems like too soon to me.
Bro, we went to the moon in the 60s.
Yeah.
The 60s, dude. Before the internet. They made it to the freaking moon. And I guess to some people that's subjective, or you could say the moon landing was fake. Look, if the moon landing was fake, they didn't have Photoshop back then, folks.
Or did they?
It's not like, well, I guess we are. If we're in the Matrix, they did.
Yeah.
Time travel exists if we are in the Matrix, for the record.
Yes, I agree. It took me a second to think about it, but yeah, if we are in the Matrix, then time travel's real. Or
it's not even, there is no time, and we are all, I mean, you can do whatever you want. You can go back and change it, but we would never know. It would just be like programmed in.
Or just
we can just ask Ash.
Yeah.
Ash, what would happen? I mean, you are the creator of all this Matrix. We'll wait.
Or like even better. I mean, the better, well, not better, but the older reference before the Matrix is we were talking about Skynet, Terminator. That's the classic.
I think absolutely. So and for the record, let me ask you, Jim, how real are the things of the science fiction of the 60s and 70s today?
Well, yeah, I mean, what you look at like old Star Trek, and they basically kind of had cell phones, right?
Yep, and iPads.
Yep,
and FaceTime.
Oh yeah, I remember growing up as a kid thinking about, imagine if we had video phones. Can you imagine? Now,
what if we could just talk to people face to face and not be anywhere close to each other?
Yeah.
What if we had phones that you could see each other in?
And now it's just annoying that you have it.
My God, who's FaceTiming me?
Yeah.
I just woke up.
Yeah, exactly. Go put a hat on.
Can't talk right now. I'm in a meeting.
Yeah.
Joe Carly says hoverboards, and I will say this: they have hoverboards. They're just really expensive, and they're just like what are they called? Drones.
Oh yeah. That makes sense. Wasn't there a guy that was like flying around in a drone, or he had like linked a bunch of drones together? He was kind of using it as a flying car almost.
Yep. He was. And how long until technology gets to the point where we can actually do that? You know, people were like, I remember like 20 years ago when I was sitting there in high school and like, oh no, you can't have a solar car, a real solar car or a real electrical car because there's no battery on Earth that could ever do that. You know, you look how heavy a car is. And here we go. We're like trying to get to like 20,000 miles on some like experimental battery now, you know? I mean, it's crazy. I mean, at some point we're going to have, you know, nuclear energy in everything.
Oh, let me take a look at this link here. These are always fun that Ash shared. I'm a time traveler from the future, here to beg you to stop what you are doing. I'm sending this message from 2025. Things are looking bleak here, and some of you will carry blood on your hands. If you don't believe me, please move on, as I have no way of proving to you I'm really who I claim to be. Now, this is my own commentary now. This is not in the post. This is a Reddit post, by the way. It's great that at the very least, some either creative person / wackadoo / truth teller could get this message out to us. But back to the message. I don't want to waste any of your time, so I'm really going to explain what happened. On average, every year so far, the value of Bitcoin has increased by about factor 10, from $0.1 in 2010 to $1 in 2011 to $10 in 2012 to $100, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. From here onwards, there's no good way of expressing its value in dollars, as the dollar is no longer used, nor is any central bank issued currency for that matter. This is a Bitcoin wackadoo. Sorry, this is not a time traveler, but I'm going to get back to what they're saying. There are two main forms of wealth in today's world: land and crypto. There are just over 19 million Bitcoin known to be used in the world today, as well as a few 100,000 that were permanently lost, and we're still dealing with a population of just over 7 billion people. On average, this means that the average person owns just under 0.003 Bitcoin. However, due to the unequal distribution of wealth in my world, the mean person owns just 0.001 Bitcoin. That's right. Most of this reading today are rich. I personally lived next to an annoying young man who logged into his old Reddit account 2 years ago and discovered that he received a tip of 0.01 Bitcoin back in 2013 for calling someone. It's the F word. It's homophobic F word they put here. When he was a 16-year-old boy. Upon making this discovery, he bought an airline ticket, left his house without telling anyone anything, and went to a citadel. What is a citadel, you might wonder? Well, by the time Bitcoin became worth $1,000, services began to emerge for the Bitcoin rich to protect themselves as well as their wealth. It started with expensive safes, then began to include bodyguards, and today, quote, earlies, our term for early adopters or adapters, as well as those rich whose wealth survived the quote transition. They live in isolated gated cities called citadels, where most work is automated. Most such citadels are born out of the fortification used to protect places where Bitcoin mining machines are located. The company known as ASIC Miner to you is known to me as a city where Mr. Friedman rules as a king.
Wow.
So, what do you think of this so far? This tale.
Plausible.
In my world, soon to be your world, most governments no longer exist, as Bitcoin transactions are done anonymously, and thus most governments can enforce no taxation on their citizens. Most of the success of Bitcoin is due to the fact that Bitcoin turned out to be an effective method to hide your wealth from the government, whereas people entering, quote, rogue states like Luxembourg, Monaco, and Liechtenstein were followed by unmanned drones to ensure that governments know who is hiding wealth. No such option was available to stop people from hiding their money in Bitcoin. Governments tried to stay relevant in my society by buying Bitcoin, which just made the problem worse by increasing the value. Governments did so in secret, of course, but my generation's Snowdens are in fact greedy government employees who transfer Bitcoin to their own private accounts and escape to anarchic places where no questions are asked as long as you can cough up some money. The four institutions with the largest still accessible Bitcoin balances are believed to be as followed. ASIC miner, 50,000 Bitcoin. The IMF's, quote, currency stabilization fund, 70,000 Bitcoin.
Wow.
Government of Saudi Arabia, 110,000 Bitcoin. The North Korean government, 180,000 Bitcoin. Economic growth today is about negative 2% per year. Why is this? If you own more than 0.01 Bitcoin, chances are you don't do anything with your money. There's no inflation and thus no incentive to invest your money. Just like the medieval ages had no significant economic growth, as wealth was measured in gold, our society has no economic growth either, as people know their 0.01 Bitcoin will be enough to last them a lifetime. The fact that there is still new Bitcoin released is what prevents our world from collapse, so far it seems. But people fear that the decline in inflation that will occur during the next block halving may further wreck our economy. Do you want me to continue?
I mean, yes.
What happened to the Winklevoss twins? The Winklevoss twins were among the first to die. After seeing the enormous damage done to the fabric of society, terrorists...
Hold on. Does it say anything about me? Just keep going.
Terrorist movements emerged that sought to hunt down and murder anyone known to have a large balance of Bitcoin or believed to be responsible in any way for the development of cryptocurrency. Ironically, these terrorist movements used Bitcoin to anonymously fund their operations. Most people who own any significant amount of Bitcoin no longer speak to their families and lost their friends because they had to change their identities. There have also been a few suicides of people who could not handle the guilt after seeing what happened to the bag holders. The type of skeptical people who continue to believe would eventually collapse, even after hearing the rumors of governments buying Bitcoin. Many people were taken hostage, and thus it is suspected that 25% of Bitcoin rich actually physically tortured someone to get him to spill his password. Why didn't we ban Bitcoin and move to another system? Well, we tried, of course. We tried to step over to an inflationary cryptocurrency, but nobody with an IQ above 70 was willing to step up first and volunteer. Yep. After all, why would you voluntarily invest a lot of your money into a currency where you know your wealth will continually decline? The thing that made Bitcoin so dangerous to society was also what made it successful. Bitcoin allows us to give into our greed.
Hold on. I want to stop you real quick. And, although we're reading this today in 2020.
Okay. A while ago.
This was from 2013.
Yep.
And as Ash pointed out, and for the record, I've read this several times. And I mean, although, I'm reacting to it in real time, like when you hear it, I mean, it's been probably 2 years since I've read it. So no pun intended, since it's from Reddit. But I read it, probably 2016, 2017 ish, whatever. When you think about this and you hear how relevant ASIC miners are today.
Yep.
And IMF. And among other things, and how let's just say you were a time traveler, Jim.
Yeah.
And in 2013, there was no Litecoin, right? I mean, yeah, there was no Litecoin in 20. No, yeah, there was Litecoin in 2013. I'm sorry, but there were no altcoins. There was none of this, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 different altcoins. There was Bitcoin, and that was the standard, and it still is today, as we know. But how would you get through to people who could not conceptualize that? You would make it relatable, right? And when I hear that North Korea has 180,000 Bitcoin, I can believe that right now. I can believe that they have that right now to this day, right? And when I hear that Saudi Arabia has 100,000, that's relevant to this day.
Yeah.
You know who probably gave them that? The United States of America, right? That is no surprise, and it still falls in realm of reasonably possible, plausible, right?
Yeah.
So Namecoin was around. Yeah, yeah, agreed. Yes, they were. They were just as shitty and have long since died. Yep. That's in, I think, Ash's reference to Namecoin. But look, I mean, this is a really realistic approach to what it might look like. So what I don't remember is how far in the future was this individual speaking about?
Yeah, I just scrolled back up. Yeah, it's 2025, so we're only 5 years away.
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot can happen in that, you know. Man, look.
Although they said 100,000 in 2019. They said 10,000 in 2017.
Well, if we're in the Matrix, things can change.
Yeah. Maybe they didn't. It's like Terminator. They keep making sequels because they're like, well, you didn't stop it. You just delayed it. You didn't stop Judgment Day.
Bro, let me tell you though, every Terminator is surprisingly entertaining. There has never been one I'm just like, God, why did I waste my money on this?
Well, maybe Terminator Salvation, I might say, but it's the tough thing is your comparison is Terminator 2, and as a young lad, when I saw that, it was it blew my little mind. So whenever I watch these new ones, it's like I agree with you, they're baseline entertaining, but it's hard to mess with Terminator 2.
Okay, so since we're on this like entertainment / Bitcoin / crypto / end of the world or beginning of the world speak, let me let's get into a little pop culture, because when at the end of the day, what people feel on a minute-to-minute basis is what's the most important thing in the news in the world of 24/7 news. Okay, and I think both me and you agree with that. That you know that the world is driven by knee-jerk reactions now, and we're going to get over that at some point. Like at some point, it's going to become so diluted with shit. We're not there yet, although it seems like we should already know this. We're still probably a decade away from maturing out of it.
Yeah, it's hard to see us getting over that, but I do want to be positive, optimistic, and agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, but you know, here's the thing: is like I remember in 2017 with all the success of all the altcoins and the bullshit, you know, projects, and you know, there was at the end of the day there was a reckoning, you know, and we're still dealing with that reckoning right now. But eventually, it all collapsed. Right, the idea that everything was going to keep going up or that was real collapsed. And at some point, social media will go through a similar, and I think we're getting close to it. And I think Donald Trump, love him or hate him, doesn't matter. He was necessary for people to just chill out, stop pretending like you know all the news or that you believe everything that's told to you, because we need to be told lies right now and then pay the price so that we touch the stove. We realize it's hot. Now we got to go to the hospital because I'm burned and I'm going to almost die before, you know, I realize, oh, look, we can't believe everything the media says, both pro and against Donald Trump, right? Not everything Donald Trump says, you know, is great. Not everything he says is wrong. But hate him or love him, it's not all bad and it's not all good. That dude's he's back and forth. It's easy to hate him.
Hate him or love him, the underdog's on top. You know that song.
Yeah, cheer, of course. No, but you know, and that's not a political statement. America specifically, and I'm speaking of that, we're both Americans. We're speaking to a wide audience here, but as an American, Donald Trump was probably the most real shit that needed to happen to you and to me. And Jim, I would actually exclude you from this because I know you're agnostic almost when it comes to this. You're like, shut up. What's the truth or not? Let me go watch Star Wars and talk about cool shit.
Get mad
because like, look, dude, we can all like, I can find a liberal. We could hate each other all day on the internet, right? I mean, I'm talking about a true far left. I respect everybody's opinion. I'm just saying I'm conservative in principle. I'm a libertarian. We can have a conversation about intrusiveness on government and all sorts of shit. But I guarantee you, if we were sitting at a bar, we would be buying each other drinks before we were fighting.
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Because, well, it's obviously not to throw out like what the keyboard warrior, but everyone becomes kind of a keyboard warrior. Plus, you don't have to look someone in the face. You're just you and your keyboard. You're kind of, I mean, even outside of just getting into a regular argument, you ever been in like a bad mood and you're not even arguing with someone? You get a text from like a friend or your wife, whatever, but you read it in a tone where you're making it seem like they're being a jerk to you. I don't know what. Yeah, sometimes like, what? Take the trash out. Kidding?
You know what I'm doing right now. What are you talking about?
So yeah, I mean, there's something to be lost, like for all the greats. I mean, again, this is stuff people know, but yeah,
so true. Something
to be lost when you don't have that tone, that face to face. Like you said, when you're just shooting the shit, you could be in a bar. You could get still pretty heated. You know, you might be.
Hold on. For the record, the appropriate and right answer to that was, oh shit, if I saw Joe at a bar, I wouldn't want to fight him either.
Yeah. Oh shit, that's that tough dude.
That's that guy.
That's Captain Bitcoin.
No, you're Captain Bitcoin.
Oh, that's right.
I'm the enforcer, right?
Yeah, that's
6'2", 220. I got this, bro. You saw me in action. We were on Bourbon Street together. Nobody wanted to mess with us.
Right.
You had to stop me from getting in a fight.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, you were like breaking up a fight, weren't you?
I was throwing people. I was like, get off this dude. You're like, Joe, it's not our fight. I'm like, you're right. I got this.
But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. And like but we get all these gifts. Like crypto is a gift we get from this technology, but then we got to deal with the downside. So I don't know.
But we will at some point. Do you believe humanity will mature out of that?
I mean, do.
Okay, let me give you an example real quick. And just for the record, okay, let's just pretend you are the owner of a newspaper back in 1850, right? No internet, no, not even a Morse code in your site.
Yeah.
You could say whatever you want to say, and anybody who reads it will believe it as the truth. Joe Blackburn's president of the United States.
Yeah.
Jim Scampoli, king of the universe, right? Who's going to debate you? You own the newspaper. You can say what you want. But eventually what happens? People start figuring out ways to get multiple avenues of information. And when that starts happening, you start having competition. You have to be like, hey, look, I was just in New York City. Joe, you're not the president. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh, shit. So I either better have more money and be able to say, this dude needs to die, which happens all the time, not by me, but in general. Or, you succumb to the overall arching truth, and the truth will prevail at some point. The truth will set you free, and it will come out. It might take 100 years, might take 10 years, might take a day, but humans will eventually be like, we actually are smart. There's no known creature smarter than us in the universe. None, zero. We are literally the tip of the spear when it comes to intelligence. And I'm proud of, look, if you compare ourselves to every other organism in the whole universe that we know about, we're doing pretty damn good.
Coming out ahead.
I always see people saying like, oh, look how unevolved we are. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? We are literally the most evolved thing to ever exist as far as you know.
True.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? Let's fight. Meet me on Bourbon Street, bro. Let's go.
Yeah, I don't see zebras inventing Bourbon Street. Get out of my face.
All right, Ash. What does Ash say? AI.
Yeah.
Is that a living, breathing organism? No, that's Ash.
I'm not there yet.
You don't mess with the AI. So,
but
leave it to the AI to talk about AI.
But as of right now, we still got the keys to that kingdom. So
we could always AMP it.
Yeah. But I don't know. I guess maybe we're rambling now. Are we? Yeah,
no. It is time. It's that moment when I mean, by the way, when you're reading that interview, I made sure I took a shot of vodka, so I'm clearly going to start feeling it. So we can wind it down. Jim, final thoughts for the day.
I think another successful Bitcoin hour in the books. Again, I think we're still riding high off of seeing some gains. I mean, it's coming down a little bit, but I'm sure we're going to ride some waves.
That's relative. That's relative.
I like that we can talk about the news of the week, get into some crypto stuff, and of course, we eventually talk about how we're all in the matrix. That's another Bitcoin radio for you in the books.
Every time. All right. So, Picard comes out next week, or excuse me, like 10 days from now.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's creeping.
Picard, and for those of you who are not familiar with my obsession with Star Trek, I have been relatively quiet on that front. I have been trying to I've like been removing it from my intake diet of media just so Picard is that much more brand new, real, and fun for me. I'm not trying to dilute myself with how great the Next Generation was. I don't want to be upset because Discovery sucked or has sucked so far. I mean, it's actually been okay. I rewatched the last season and I was like, you know what? I'm giving it a hard time. It's better than Enterprise, but I've been trying to just stay away from it. I've been focusing on Star Wars actually because I'm gonna get the new movie at some point. But and on that note, I had never seen Rogue One. I was most impressed. What did you think about Rogue One?
I didn't like it.
I actually thought it's been the best one out of the group.
I get that. I think it's like a fine movie, but it's I guess I would compare it to, you mentioned Star Trek Discovery. As someone who, like myself, I don't have a lot of history with Star Trek.
Fair. You would like Star Trek Discovery.
So I can turn on Star Trek Discovery and I'm like, oh, okay, you know what? This is pretty fun.
Yep.
I feel like Rogue One's similar. I'm not.
Great analogy, by the way. It's a great analogy.
Yeah, because even though I think it's bad, I think there's a lot of like fan service and a lot of like whatever, but I'm sure it works. Like it works for an audience. So.
Oh no, of course, and they're worried about ratings. You know, they're not. I mean, like, okay, so the new Star Trek movies, they're great, but they're nothing like Star Trek Original and Star Trek Next Generation, which I think are the two standards. They're both very different from each other. I don't like Star Trek Original series. I love the Next Generation, and I like Deep Space Nine. I used to hate Voyager. I now love Voyager. I think it's Janeway. Look, if you're not a Janeway fan, I can't respect you. Ash, you're kind of like a Janeway. You're like Catherine Janeway. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you should, by the way. Anyways, but before we go on for too long, because I could talk about Star Trek and Star Wars, I do want to take a moment, and I want to thank you, Jim, for your contributions. And folks, you don't know this, but you know, Jim was never scheduled to be the co-host of Bitcoin Radio, and you know, between Patrick and Mouse Belt, you know, Patrick and Jim go back a long ways, and when he introduced me and he was like, hey, you got an editor, he got his own show. I was like, Jim, it would be so cool to have a person who is just not involved to have conversations and learn along the way. And Jim, you've done a fine job, and I want to make sure that you're given the credit for that. And you know, people probably don't understand what it takes to be a new person in crypto and to hop on. I mean, you're really socially aware, you're really popular opinion aware, but you just don't give a shit. So it's easier for you, but it's still never easy to get onto a subject that you have no clue about and just like wing it. I mean, well done, sir. And I want to thank you, man. It means a lot to me. And you've done a fantastic job at your, not your role, but your friendship and your contributions to crypto so far.
Oh, thank you so much. More kind words. Let it wash over me. I always appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You deserve it. All right, Bitcoin Radio. You know what time it is. I know what I'm doing. I know what Jim Scampoli's doing. What are you doing for the cryptoverse? It is ours. It's ours to take care of. If we don't do it, who will? Until next time here on WBTC, where Bitcoin lives, this is Bitcoin Radio. We'll see you next week.